Good day, everybody. Welcome back to Learn Software Development. This is our 11th video now, and hosting today, as well as every other time before this, is me, FishFood89. We are going to continue today from where we left off last time, and where we left off last time was the instantiation of the checkers pieces to the board. So we have the checker piece, we have the board, we have just one example of it being aligned there nicely. We have camera, we have lights, we have a nice view. Now we want to make our life simple so that we can always reset the board how we want. And for that, we are going to use programming. We're going to use GDScript. We're going to be doing some coding. Earlier on in this course, we did the Hello World project where we had coding. And then when we got to this game, we haven't yet gotten into it, except now's the time to jump into it, finally. All right, so start things off. Once again, we're going to open the Godot engine. I have it start here. Previously, I think I used 4.1.1. Since then, I've updated to 4.1.3 just about a month ago. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. When you change the Godot engine version, you might need to load or set your layouts again. That's what I did. But that didn't take me too long. Some of those things might be stored in the projects. So try it out. See how it works. I don't remember exactly how it went here. But nevertheless, 4.1.3. I actually haven't tried 4.1.3 with the checkers game now, but I did use it for another project. So my settings might be up to date because of that. But let's go ahead and open it. Regardless, all of this should work in 4.1.1 as well as 4.1.3. And here we have the checkers game. I've got my theme here. Loaded the Solarized Dark. Those I did have to set up separately when I first opened this version. And here we are. It remembered actually exactly how our view was here, because this is a thing I only did here, and the layout seems to have been loaded nicely. So, welcome back to the checkers game. And here we had the piece. And the piece is a scene. And if we open an editor, we come here. And now currently we have just a white piece. We have material black tie and material, not tie, tile. And material white tile and then material piece. And I think this one is having that material. If we go in here and edit this, we'll have its material somewhere visible. Where was it now? There, on the top, material piece. So this material piece white. How should we change this to black? I think I'm gonna have to rename this piece or then have a script load in the material. That is possible, of course. I think. Let's see what the documentation says here. So it's got mesh, primitive mesh. All of these rings, top radius. Yeah, there's the cylinder that I used for this. Inherits primitive mesh. Material. It has a property for material. And the current material of the primitive mesh. Okay, so if I want to find out what the current material is for that mesh, I'd probably need to get the instance of this primitive mesh that's here, or it's cylinder mesh. And a way to go about it is probably to try it. So let's go back here. I have piece. I'm going to first do a little investigation. How do I get that property? Because I want to change between black material and white material. That would be cool. Then we, just have one piece, but we change its material, which would be efficient for us. So I'm going to right click here on piece and attach a script. It's going to grab the name from the name of the node nicely and make it snake cased. Good. It's inheriting whatever it should be. Mesh instance 3D, it's correct. And class name, not applicable. All right. GDScript we want. All right, and it'll create it here to res. We have so few things here, so we might as well just put it to the root of our resources. That's okay for now. But as things progress, we'll need to probably bring in some more structure to our project. So more folders. Let's go ahead and create that. All right, here we have extends mesh instance 3D. Good. And it didn't have any, I didn't bring any of those default things. Like ready and process, which are usually filled in. Could be I've taken it off earlier from some settings, but quite often you might have that. Let's have a look at that actually. Let's not save that. And let's delete this. And let's go to piece. Because it didn't save the script. Attach script. Yeah, template. So you can take like node object, and then it will have these Godot cycle methods. So I had this off, but if I had like default one for node, then it would give me like the ready and the process here. That's why you didn't see it here when I first opened it, because I had taken that off at another time. But this is probably what you would see if you didn't do exactly as I had done there, that you had it ticked off. By default, it is on. These are helpful. So this is most likely what you would be seeing. We're not going to really need process for this for now. What we really want to use is ready, though. What I want to investigate first, when I'm not sure how everything exactly works in documentation, then you test it. And we should have Control S to save now that I've done a few changes to this script. Piece.gd, piece.gd, that's what's selected. And it was mesh instance 3D. And it inherits, it's got its own properties. It's got a property called mesh. Mesh resource. And where does it get the material from? Let's see. What else does it have? Skin. Nothing there. See, where did we attach things? So here we had mesh. Okay, so that's the mesh for it. And so let's have a look at what's inside mesh then. Here you can see the property is called mesh. It's highlighted there. Property mesh. So this one. So that's the one we want to access. So let's go back here and let's just print to the output information about it. So print self.mesh. Let's see what that prints out. Let's just play the current scene. So this one, not the whole game from the beginning, just this piece scene. So this scene. Let's go ahead and do that. And it's not really going to print anything, but it's going to print us a cylinder mesh object that's inside it. Okay. So we know it's cylinder mesh, and this one had material, I think. Yeah, it's inherits primitive mesh, and that one has material. So cylinder mesh should have the material property as well because it inherits primitive mesh. So let's go back here. We can try self.mesh.material. I think that might work. Let's see. Null. Okay. Didn't do something right there. Cylinder mesh. properties, material was null there. Let's go and edit this. So here's cylinder mesh. And no sub resources found. Material piece dot, could it be that this is actually, oh, this is the cylinder mesh is this material. So I haven't added anything else done. Right. Primitive mesh material empty. So we got object null when we accessed this material here. So it mesh, we got this mesh and then we accessed material and it's empty. So I don't have any material for it. So that's why it's white. Makes sense. And when I printed its value, it was null. So that's because there's nothing. All right, so now we're going to need to add a new color to it. So, okay, so material piece TRES is just, I guess I'll call it Trez. Is, might be pronouncing it wrong, don't know. Haven't seen any pronunciation instructions for it. But anyways, this resource file is not the material kind of shading. It's just the mesh. So maybe I have a bad name for this. It's misleading. It's not really a material yet because it's in mesh. As we see here, it's this thing here. So I'm going to first go ahead and rename that. Let's rename this. Okay, it doesn't want to let me do that now. So I press rename here. Okay, there it allows, but here it's, now we go. Okay, don't know why I didn't do it earlier. So we're gonna put, this is a mesh piece there. And now let's see if it updated it correctly here. Mesh piece there, it updated it here. So if I go and edit this mesh that's loaded here, it's going to be mesh piece. So it remembered the reference in the engine, which is nice. So if we now did self mesh printing and play the current scene, here in the output we see cylinder mesh down here under this screen. And we'll still see it after we stop the application. Okay. So it has no material, so now let's go ahead and build the materials. We're going to want black and white. We could take these tile colors that we've already created here, but that might be a bit challenging if we put them on with the exact same color. So we're going to use the white one because the pieces are only ever going to be on the black tiles, if I remember correctly. Let me check that out real quick. I think I already did that testing here in main. Yeah, they're only going to ever be on the black or dark tiles. So maybe I'm going to make something that's not the same color for the kind of black tiles and the white tiles. The white is fine as it is because that comes out nicely. But then the black one's not really going to be. So we're going to need a new material for the piece. So let's go and do that. The easiest way probably to do it is to edit the mesh and then go here and then new standard material 3D. I believe that's the one, yeah. And now we can edit this again. There, we're going kind of deeper in. And Albedo gave us the base color here. So let's maybe make it like a bit gray so that it stands out a bit. And maybe we can make it a bit brown as well. So try something like this. All right, let's try that out. So now it's got some color, no texture. It's fine. It is enough for us now. As you can see, there's lots of things to do to give materials. And now let's save it. And let's call this material dark piece. And save. All right, and now we can come back to piece, and now it's got color there. I just did this so I can see the results of the tiles or the pieces colors, but I don't really want to keep that there, so I'm gonna make sure we reset this material from here, so by default it has nothing, and just save this mesh again. There, but we have the information stored here, so we're all good. Now what we want to do is load this resource for the material. So let's see how that works out in the script. That's where we want to do it. Let's have a look at, there's mesh, primitive mesh material, set material value. Let's see some instructions. So I think we'll need to load it because it's a file. So we're gonna need to load it there. In Godot there was, let's go to online docs. And here I can go and look at, I think it was load. There's a function called load that allows you to load stuff. For example, here, there's loading a resource, a shader. Background loading, GDScript, classes as resources. Yeah, classes stored as files are treated as resources. They must be loaded from disk to access them. So that's like .gd, but I think load is here. GDScript there. Information about load. So here, this class reference is helpful to you. It shows you the nodes, the resources, and this is a global function. It works everywhere in GDScript. So if I just go to GDScript, it'll show the methods or functions, GDScript, and it returns a resource from the file system. So for example, a scene, it'll be a packed scene. So I think if it's a material, it'll be something else. Let's check if there was, for example, base material 3D, standard material 3D. That's the one we just used. And here it's going kind of through similar things we already went through. It is actually a good one. It's going through all the different properties you have for a material so you can adjust the visuals. But let's see if it has, yeah, albedo is the base color of the material. So that's what we wanted right now. That was enough. As you can see, there's all kind of cool things that you can do. This is actually a really good tutorial. Recommend looking into it. But I want to see if this documentation has anything about loading it. No. That was just tutorials. Okay. But base material 3D is material. It's a resource. So this is a class within GDScript. So we should be able to use the load function to it. Let's try that. Let's put self, which is the piece itself. It's a mesh instance 3D, and inside to its mesh, we have the material. So now we'll set it as, well, actually, let's first do a different thing. Let's put var, let's create a temporary variable here. Let's call this, material underscore, because there is a property called material for this class. And in Godot, you don't have to use self dot to find properties of the class itself, but I use that myself, a lot of self here. I use that myself when I want to access something that I can't see in the editor, like I explained earlier in some intro video. So if I'm accessing, for example, mesh, which is not visible in my own script, but it is a member of mesh instance 3D, which we're extending from, then I put self to make a note to myself that this is a part of this class, but it's not within my visual range right now. But let's now create a new variable called material underscore, so we don't overshadow the material from mesh. Actually, there isn't material in mesh instance 3D directly, so we probably are safe by having just material, but I know there's a material property, so by putting material underscore, I'm avoiding conflicts ahead of time. And now here we'll do load, and then here it's already giving us what we want to load. You can select from here or write it down. We wanted this one. And what I want to do now is I want to print the material. So, oh, just noticed. I already played around with the colors of my editor in some other projects. So your colors here for the highlights of the syntax of the code is probably going to be different than mine. Just a note. Don't worry about it. You can change those all from editor settings, and then you had text editor theme. And yeah, as you can see, I've touched a lot of things here. So like symbol color, keyword color, some string color. I think it's originally yellow, but I don't want to touch that now because I actually like this one. But you can adjust anything here. As you can see, GDScript function definition color, I've changed that. So just in case you were wondering. But regardless, what I type here is the same. That should be the same for you. So now if I print material, it should show me the name of whatever was loaded here. I don't exactly know what it's going to be. I haven't tested it out. I could try finding out what it is. I think it's going to be standard material 3D, or then it's going to be a packed resource that I need to then still instantiate with new. Let's see. So that's why I'm testing it. So I'm going to play the scene again and print. Okay, it's directly standard material 3D. It's not a node, so I don't need to instance it, I guess. Okay. So, all right, cool. So now I know that it is standard material 3D, and I can press tab or enter, or see if I press enter, yeah, it takes it, or click it. It auto fills it from the suggestion. And now we have material. And now if I put self.mesh.material is this material, there I just press tab again to autocomplete because it suggested this already to me. Makes life a bit faster. Now what we should see is a change in color. But actually, let's first, I'm going to press Control K to comment these out. So this script actually does nothing. And now in main, we have instantiated one piece. And if I press play, now it's going to be white. And my hypothesis is that it's going to be brown after I take this code back into action by taking the comments away. Comments are things that are not read by the game engine. They're just notes for yourself. So with comments, you can hide away temporary code. You had an idea, or just leave actual comments for yourself as, you know, reference and documentation. But now that that's turned back on, I'm expecting it to change the color and load this actual material dark piece there. And it's there. Perfect. I think it could be a bit lighter. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to now double click this, change the albedo, make it just a tiny bit lighter to make it stand out a bit better there. Save that, press play. Now it stands out more. All right. But now we're able to load the colors, which is great. And with code, we can change the color of the material anytime. So we've accomplished this rule here. Of course, now anytime I make a piece, it's going to always be brown. I don't want that. That's because this happens in ready. So I'm going to need to have some sort of definition elsewhere for how to select which material gets put into it. I could, of course, do it so that it happens on a higher level and not inside the piece itself, because now it's attached to every single piece. So it's probably easier if I did it from the parent, which is the board. So let's go ahead and do that. I know there's a lot to take in here. So pause, go back, look at what happened, and if I need to slow down, put comments on what would be helpful. If I need to recap something more in detail, just send a comment about it, and I'll try covering it up in another video. And I'll try to do a recap once I've gone through this whole configuration thing myself at the end of the video. So I'll try and do a recap there for you to see how things work, what was the end solution and why. So going a bit speedy here as I'm still finding things out, but you're getting to experience and see what I run through in my head. So what I'm actually going to do now is detach script. So take this script away from piece. And now you can see this asterisk here, so control save. Now with, let's see, piece.gd, well, we can keep this code here just to remind ourselves of how to do this material setting. But now I'm going to actually go to main and here go to 3D. So here we have this piece, but we want to put these on the board with code. And here earlier, again, middle mouse button that I'm using and shift middle mouse, I can then move things along. So here, what we want to do is load the Y needs to be 0.075 for the piece. And then these different pieces need to be assigned into different places, like 2.5, 1.5, 0.5, plus 0.5. Control Z to put it back. So I'm going to delete the piece, and we're going to be loading these as well. And I'm certainly not going for the most optimized way of doing this now. First, get it done, and then once you have your proof of concept, then you can start optimizing things. It's a good rule of thumb in software development. Don't try to get everything done in one go. It usually doesn't happen. It's, trial and error. You're learning. I had to read documentation and go back and forth and test if I understood it correctly before moving forward. That's how you get things done in a way that you can keep track of progress yourself. But now we can actually remove the piece. In the previous video said that I'm just putting it here to figure out these values. So I'll remove it once I've had these values put into code. And I'm going to make a new script. I'm going to have the pieces come into the board. I think that should be completely fine. Yeah. So I'm going to attach a script to board. Let's call call it board.gd at this point, and I'm not going to put this one now because I remember what they should be. All right, so here to board, I'm going to add some children. So let's have ready first, as we need that. And this is the return type. That's returning void, so it's returning nothing. That's how ready should always work. And I'm going to write pass here. Don't know exactly what's going to come there yet. Let's see. I'm going to need some sort of map of pieces. Good container for maps is a dictionary. It's simple to use. You have a key and then you have a value. So the key could be well, actually, no. Let's just focus on one thing, on getting the pieces there. I'm going ahead of myself here. Let's not think of the map yet. What we want is for the pieces to be put into the correct place. So let's try with one single piece first. Let's keep it simple. So let's create here a new variable. Let's call it piece, and this should be, check it from here. Its type is mesh instance 3D. That's the name of the node. So we're gonna, I use static typing whenever I can. Mesh instance 3D. And now we assign it the scene. So we're going to load it. And we're going to load from here piece.tscn. That's for scene. Now this is actually a packed scene, and it's already complaining here that we can't put piece into mesh instance 3D. So what we need to do here is I think it was new. And there, now it's fine. So if I just loaded a scene, documentation says that it's going to be a packed scene. I can prove this by putting here packed scene, and the editor is going to stop complaining. And then if I go here, print piece, and we run this, we'll get output stuff as well. It says it's a packed scene. So it's a scene that's ready to be instantiated as a node, but it's not yet a node. So we're gonna need to put new to make it into a node, so the scene gets instantiated. An instance of a class. That's what the instantiation means. A class is what we have here. Every node, every script that gets attached to something in Godot is a class. It's a fundamental of object-oriented programming. And instantiating or creating objects from classes is what we're doing here. And the class is here the blueprint of what the object that is created is going to be like and behave. I think I might need to do some object-oriented programming theory at some point, try to visualize it a bit better. That might be an idea for a video to follow. But I'm going to immediately now instantiate it there. And then here for piece, we'll then, now if I put print piece, it's going to give me, it's not a pack scene, that's actually going to be a mesh instance 3D. And now printing it should give me the class's name, so the type. Okay, I did something silly there. Non-existent function new in base packed scene. All right, I'm forgetting something from here. Let's go and see documentation. What did I do wrong? What silly thing was I attempting to do? Oh, it's instantiate. Right. Yeah, new was if I used resources. Wait, create the object, new. Then here it's instantiate. Okay, yeah, I'm not creating a new base class or something that's, from Godot. It's a packed scene. No, but here it's a new packed scene, but then instantiate is. Okay, so I should be using instantiate. All right. I think I typed that right. It's not giving any errors, so. All right, now it says mesh instance 3D here for piece. This is the different piece that we put manually here. We're not going to see this piece yet. So let's put some other properties to it. Now we have the piece as a node of mesh instance 3D, which is what it is. Here, it's mesh instance 3D. Here, its position is 0, 0, 0, but when we have it on the board here, it's... Okay, now because I put it as a child of that, it changed, but the y is 0.075 and 7 meters is there. That depends on where it counts the position from. So this is why I have this one example here. When I put it visually, it didn't move anywhere, but now it's a child of board and it's calculating things relative to that. If I put piece to main, now it has different values. And now we're going to be putting it into board. So here it's at 7. So I'm guessing here it would be at, it's Z, so here. So here it would be at 0. So I'm expecting the new piece I create to end up here on the white, because this is 7. Okay, so let's try to make the new piece so that it's brown and it appears here. So it should be 6 meters on the Z and 1 meter on the X. All right, let's try that. So let's go back to the script. So now to piece, I can give its transform, and again I need to go look at documentation for search for mesh instance 3D. Actually, the transform is in node 3D, so I can actually look at the properties from node 3D here. Here you can see the inheritance. So again, some object-oriented fundamentals I'll probably need to go through. But what I'm looking at from here is transform, and transform is, oh, there's a lot here. Transform 3D. See if there's some position, rotation, scale, local space transform 3D of this node with respect to the parent node. That's what we saw. But are we able to get, okay, position. This is position, so I think this is transform.origin. Okay. So let's try the position here, vector. So this is probably X, Y, Z. Let's see. Yeah, X, Y, Z. And we create a new vector 3D, all components set to 0. Okay. Looks a bit cryptic for the first time you're looking at it. I've looked at it several times, so that's why I'm finding my way a bit faster. So piece dot position, and then here we can actually just say, I think X as well. Yeah. So position has the properties X, Y, and Z. So I can say that X, I think that should be 1 meter, and then piece dot position dot y should be 0.075 meters, and position dot z should be 6. So I wanted it to come here. So this is 7, so it's 1 back, so z should be 6, and it's 1 forward on x. X is red. This is x. You can see x from here. And these are all in meters, so going 1 forward, that should be 1. And the height, which is y, I want it to be the same as this so that it doesn't go inside the board. But even if we ran this, we're still not going to see it, because now we don't need to print that anymore, because we haven't put it as a child of board. So this is board.gd, it's attached to board. We haven't put it as a child, so when we press play, we're not going to see a new piece here. But we should see it after I set it as a child. So the way to do it is to go self.add child, and then you pass in the node that's going to be a child. So we create the node here, we instantiate it from a resource file, a scene. We set its x, y, and z values before we add it there. We can always set them afterwards as well, but we might as well do it first before adding it. But now when we put add child, just a while ago when I pressed play, this wasn't here. Now that it is, Control S to save, we should see it's here, like that. So this is how you create stuff with code. And this is why I want to do the board assembly with code, because then I can always have a button to, restart the game and everything goes to the right places. So this is how it goes for one thing. Let's now put the piece.gd, didn't delete that yet because mesh material, and then we have this material. So what I can do now is let's Control C, copy that and paste it here. So now we've set the piece's basic things, and now self is wrong because we're setting this to the piece. So it's piece. Self refers to whatever is attached, this script is attached to, which is board. And that's node 3D. So it would be referring to this, not this piece. This piece is behind the variable name piece. So we want to attach the material. And now if we do this, let's put there to separate the parts. So for comments for you, I really normal code, I wouldn't put comments like this, which you can find from documentation, but for you to kind of keep track of what's happening, I can put here that instantiate piece from resource file. And then here, what we're doing is we're setting the position of the piece in the parent. So these are all respective to the parent. It's a child of board, and this is attached to board, and board in here is this thing. As you can see, this is highlighted, so it'll become a child of this, not the entire world. The world is main. So then here what we're doing is setting the material of the piece. And then here we are adding the piece as a child of board. And this is what brings it to life. Well, let's see, the new thing we did actually code, not just the comments, but actual logic changes was this. And it should work just with this 2 lines of code. Run the project, and now it's brown. This one also turned brown. That's interesting. Could it be that that's because... Well, did not expect that to happen. Why did that one turn brown as well? Now they're white. Okay, if I comment that away, if I just change the material, why does it change it for that as well? It does. Okay, so that was a surprise. Well, I am instancing the scene, and then this affects not the material affects the entire scene and not just the instance. I did not expect that. Okay, so things aren't going quite as planned. So we were kind of able to do what we wanted, but now they're both brown. What am I missing? So current material of the primitive mesh. So do I need to have a separate piece per color? That's interesting. Okay, there's demo projects from where you can, that are external, that you can find some more information about, but let's see. We had, I think it was base material 3D and standard material 3D, yeah. So here are these. Okay. Yeah. This was cylinder mesh. Handles applying a material to a primitive mesh. Okay. All right. Mesh. Okay. Okay, let's maybe make this a bit simpler for ourselves, instead of trying to solve this all with code. Because it could be that I'm gonna need like how did I do it with the board though? Did board row. There's a tile. I made new tiles and okay, there's surface material override. Ah, that's what I did there. Mesh instance 3D. So, okay, so, right. So yeah, what I did here was the class that's here. Now I'm touching the class and I'm not doing the surface material override, which is what I wanted to do. All right, seems like I got it figured out now. So makes sense. So I was adjusting the stuff that are in the class and they both inherited. So these both use the same piece class And when I touch the material at the class, it's reflected to all of the children, which is handy. You might want to do that sometimes, but that's not what I wanted to do here. I wanted to touch only that one instance. And there's the surface material override. So that's mesh instance 3D. Yeah, is piece, just like those tiles were. And there should be some surface material override. Let's see, property descriptions, mesh. There's no surface material mentioned here that I can see of, so maybe it's in this one. No, visual instance 3D. Okay, let's go and let's see, what is this called? Mesh instance 3D surface material override. Let's search it from documentation. Here it is, get surface override material. Okay, set surface override material. Okay, sets the override material for the specified surface of the mesh resources. Yeah, it's with the instance and not with the mesh. Yeah, so the mesh is the class in between, behind, and this is just the mesh instance 3D, which is what I want. So specified surface, I think that's just 0. At least here it's 0. It could have many surfaces, but right. But I'm gonna assume it's 0 because here it's 0, and this is a surface. Guessing. Let's try it. So we're gonna go here, and it was set surface material override in mesh instance 3D. So here we should go set surface override material, not material override anyways, surface 0, and then we pass in the material. Okay, now let's see if we have one white and one brown. Now we do. All right, problem solved. Great. I was beginning to wonder that this is such a basic thing that most likely they've solved this in Godot and I'm just being silly and doing something wrong, which was the case. So here, again, you saw me fail, but luckily we recovered and we can move on. So there. Now we have this one tile there, and it's in the exact place where I wanted it to be. But next I'm going to need to think of something smarter on how to get this done everywhere, so I don't need to always write this large amount of code just to get things ready. And one way to do that is to have a function that handles the instantiation of this. So then it can be called in ready. So let's go ahead and make that. I'm going to call func for function, and this doesn't really need to be accessed outside of this class. So I'm going to make it private by putting an underscore in front. And it's a convention of noting that this should not be called or used outside of this script or this class. Every script in Godot is a class, so they're interchangeable terms here. I'm going to have to give it my own name so I don't override any of these ones here, which are already built in. I've done the mistake in some other thing where I overrode a property or a function mistakenly, a signal name, or a method with my own method. Different story in a different project. But I learned from that and I make sure I'm not overriding something that I shouldn't. But that's, yeah, let's come up with our own name for this now. I'm blabbering. So let's call this add piece. That's what we're doing. And now we want to give this variables. We want to give it color. Let's say, well, we only have two colors. The default is going to be white for now, at least it is. So let's make it work for now. Let's not think too far ahead. And we're going to have more than one argument. It's going to have the Y position is always going to be the same, but the X and Z is going to be different. So let's style this. This is not going to return anything. It's going to be returning void. And let's style this definition like this. So you can path things in multiple lines, but it's easier to read multiple arguments and their types if they're put into one line at a time. Anything that happens within these parentheses are kind of contained within them, even if they're in separate lines, which is nice. You get like code that can be on multiple lines, a bit easier to follow and read, especially when using version controlling, which we'll get to eventually, and the lines not ending up being like super long sideways. But we're going to need X, which is a float. We're going to need Z, which is a float. And the comma here is to separate the two arguments, but after the last one, you can't have the comma. I think it's going to complain about that. Maybe it used to complain about it by having this comma after the last argument in some earlier Godot version, but let's see how it works out here. This is how it works in Python, for example. It's really nice and handy. And also arrays and dictionaries in Godot, you can have a comma after every single value, even the last one, but it didn't work in functions earlier. I haven't tested if it works, so let's give it a shot. But X and Z would be these, their positions in the parent. And then we're gonna not call the material as an argument, but we're just gonna put a boolean, a true or false, and make it dark bool, so true or false bool. By default, it's going to be false, but we're not going to give it a default value. But these should be the things that we need. So let's now copy this here. We have the piece, and then we're going to be setting these values. So let's paste them here, but we're not going to put 1. Here we're going to put X and Z. So now we're going to put X and Z into respective places. And then we're going to do like if dark. So we're doing a conditional check. If dark is true, so this could be true or false, then we're going to do this material override thing, and only then. So there I pressed home and pressed tab. You can use tab to get them indented. So only if we request it to be dark, it's going to be dark. Otherwise, this stuff inside this if block is not executed. And we're always going to add the piece as a child to the board. So let's like copy paste these, put them here. And let's make here a comment, setting the material of the piece to dark if requested. And here we're putting this. And let's put this here just for your reference. Once you get used to programming, you don't really need so many comments. But in the beginning, it's a better habit to make more comments than needed than to not have comments at all. But now in ready, we're going to call the add piece function. And we're going to say bool true, dark is true, X, we wanted it to be 1, and Z, we wanted it to be 6. Now it's going to do the exact same thing as last time. Put that dark piece to the board, but we're doing it with one function call, and this is reusable code. So functions are used to create reusable code. So you don't need to have all of this every time when you want to do the same thing again. You just pack it or package it inside a function, and then you call the function, and it may or may not need arguments. For example, y, we always want it to be at this height, so we don't need to bring it in as an argument. Sometimes we want a dark piece, sometimes not, so we can put this as an argument. X and Z need to vary because they're going to come to different tiles. And now I added it here. So now if we go ahead and do, like, this is white and this is dark over here. So I'm just going to quickly try to calculate these values. Let's put here, let's make another function actually. Func initialize white pieces. And this one doesn't need arguments. And let's put here initialize dark pieces. There. So what I'm doing here is I'm making things more modular. Pass is just a no operation keyword. It just, it's every function needs some body, and pass is just, as a note to yourself that something should happen here, or nothing happens, but if you create your own function, you usually want it to do something, so it's more like do something here. A comment probably wouldn't be enough. Yeah, there's no body. It's just a comment. The engine doesn't read it, so that's why we put pass, so we don't get these unnecessary errors while we're developing. But yeah, now instead of having add piece here multiple times, all the dark pieces will always have dark as true, and all the white pieces will have dark as false. So that's the difference between these two. And they're all gonna be in different places. So I want the dark pieces to all come to a certain place every time, and white pieces every time to a certain place. So having their own function makes sense. And now let's do this in a very simple terms, not yet going into 2D. There's already a lot to learn here. So be nice to yourself and don't force yourself to understand everything in one go. So I'm going to first do it, and then I'm going to walk you through. So here we're going to put add piece. This is dark, so this is true. And then here we wanted them to come, and I can use this one test piece. And now it's gone into this strange. Again, it's gone into this 1 meter at a time mode. I wonder where it was from. The view, snap object, configure snap, yeah. Again, it's for some reason changed the values. It's a bit annoying that it does this, but anyways, 1 meter is fine for our purposes now. So the dark ones are going to come up here. So the first one is going to be 0 on the Z. So it's from this corner, and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's going to be 1, 3, 5, 7. Okay. So copy paste this. There's going to be 4, 1, 3, 5, 7. And they're all going to be dark. So let's see what happens now. Now we're still going to have this one piece here. Let's just put it back here to where it was originally. But we're going to have 4 dark pieces here. That's what should happen. That's because I've put true to the dark argument. X has changed, and X was this red axis here, so this way, and Z is 0, it's here, and there it was 0 when we moved this one along here. We can see Z is 0. So this helps us, find our configurations. So now we should have 4 pieces there. And we do. Beautiful. So now in the next one, we're going to have Z come 1, and then all of the others are minus that. And to make life a bit easier, let's make a comment here at first row, second row, and here this is all 1, and now X had to go 1 less, and now we should have those. And now we need 1 more row here, so it's otherwise the same as the first one except Z has gone up. So now I'm going to go and Control-C, copy that, paste that, and 2, 2, 2, 2. And now when I press play, they're all there. Beautiful. Now we're going to do the same for white. Here, of course, the values are going to be different, but the same idea. So all of these will be false, and then these positions will be different. The positions will be, I think it's 7 for the first row. Let's think of this as first, it's coming towards the middle. Second and third, so 7, 6, 5. Otherwise, the X positions should be the same, except it starts from 0 and not 1, like here, because we're staying only on the black tiles in the game. So let's go ahead and copy this all and paste it here. And now all of these will set to false, because we don't want it dark, we want them white. There. Now the first row, the Z value, as I said earlier, was going to be 7. So let's put 7 here. And the first piece, which was already there, and we're going to remove this soon, is 0. So then this is +2, +2, oops, 4, 6. Now in the next row, this should be 1, 3, 5, 7. And this is going to be position 6. So that's where it is in the parent. These are important to remember as you develop stuff here. And this is 5. And now to prove that we get all the white ones from here, I'm going to go and put this white one here, where there shouldn't be anything. And all the other white pieces come to these black ones within this area. So let's Control-S to save and play the scene. And we have the white pieces here, and we have the dark pieces there. Cool. We've set up the board. Now we can remove this piece completely. We don't need it at all, so we can just delete node. And now if we play, we have the board set up perfectly for the game. Now, of course, we can't do anything else in the game yet because we've just initialized the board, and it's only called when this board comes to the scene tree, so when it's loaded in. And this is not really what I'd call yet maintainable code. There's a lot of copy pasting, but it's working. So let's go through the steps of what I just promised earlier. So here we have the board. The board is a scene as created earlier, this one, and we've instantiated that scene to our main scene. Here it shows that it's a scene and it's been instantiated. Go check 2 videos backwards, I think video 9, where we started building this. So There you'll see how it was done. And now we attached to this board that we always want to be in the main scene. We always want a board. We've attached a script to it called board.gd. Now in board.gd, we're telling ready, which is called when the board comes active to the scene. So it becomes initialized to the scene in runtime when the application is kicked off. It then first calls dark initialize pieces, and then we go inside this function, and then it adds piece, and in add piece it does all of this. I can actually walk you through better with the debugger like I did in, I think, the hello world thing. So let's do that. It's at a breakpoint here. These red dots here are breakpoints for the debugger, and this play is play the project, but this always runs it in debug mode. It's not a build, and that's what we want. And then here in the debugger down the bottom, we can then look at what happens row by row. So let's actually walk through like that, and the debugger will get a bit more familiar as well. So there. Now if we go to the application itself, there's nothing loaded here. There's no visuals here. That's because it's not in the scene yet. Ready gets called when it's about to enter the scene, so the board. And first, we initialize all the children of board before the board itself is initialized. And now if we close this, we're going to stop debugging, so we're not going to want to do that, except it's in breakpoint mode, so it's not closing it. Oh, that's because it's not fully loaded. We can stop it from here. But now we see this yellow button, this yellow play icon here shows what line in code we are in. And Godot automatically goes to whatever breakpoint you set there when it gets to it. Okay, so now initialize dark pieces is the next thing to be executed. We have not yet executed this. This has not been done yet because we're on the line. It only gets done when we go to the next line. And here we have debugger already selected, and it's saying there's a breakpoint, which is true. Now we have the following options. I can put here step into, which means it goes inside whatever's happening here, or step over, which is no, go to the next line, but let's not go inside. Here we want to go inside initialize dark pieces to see what happens inside it. So we're going to press this F11 on your keyboard or step into. In this keyboard, I don't have those F buttons, so I'm just going to click here. And now you see this line. This arrow is pointing to this line and it's highlighted. So we're on this line in code execution, so it's add piece. Now we can step into add piece, which is down here, and it'll take us inside there. Now, here we were on here where we gave dark to be true, X to be 1, and Z to be 0. And when we go inside this function, it shows here in the locals, the arguments dark, X, and Z, that this is on, so true. It's a Boolean, true or false, so it's like checked as on. Piece is null, so we haven't yet loaded this code. And now we're actually going to step over this. I don't think we can even step into this because these are all built-in things. We can try. Let's step into, but it's probably just going to jump here and not take us into any new place. Yeah, because we don't have our own custom code for it, so we can't debug it with step into. But now it shows piece that was null. Now it has an object ID. And if we click on this, it'll then load here to the inspector all the information about it, just as if we were editing it in the editor, which is nice. We can, check all the values and attributes and properties and stuff. The path here means that it's where is it located in the scene. Currently it's orphan, and that's because we haven't added it as a child to anything. Everything needs to be a child of something. The board is a child of main. The main is a child of the root viewport. So currently we've just created it into a variable, and it's not a child of anything. Here, after calling this add child, it should get a path value. But now we're here, piece X. And if we go here to position, which is the thing that we're changing here, we can see X is 0. And here we are wanting it to be 1 and Z is 0, that'll stay 0. y will always be 0.075 so that it's right on the surface of the board. And we should see these two values change as we go one line at a time. Okay, so we changed x. We'll have to click piece again because it changes value, but here, now x is 1. Now next y should be 0.075. There. So it works. Z should be 0. We can see that it's 0. And we're still going to assign it to 0. So it's not going to change, but it's 0. Everything's good. All of the other values it got from the scene itself when it was loaded. But now we're manipulating these ones. Now here's the if dark. So dark, if it's true, it's going to call on this. Otherwise it would skip. So now when we go next line, it's going to go to this one because dark is true. If dark, if true, then execute the stuff inside the block. And now here we have this piece. Here, if we click this material, we get to the material, the color. This is wonderful. You can see everything you need in the usual editor format that you do stuff and edit things in 3D or 2D view. You can see the inspector here and see all of its properties. But here, currently, surface material override for piece is empty. There's nothing there. And it's at surface 0. But after calling this, we should see that it's going to have something in it. It's going to have this one. So let's go forward to the next line, click piece again, and now we can see that it has material dark piece, TRES. So just like I did manually earlier when I was trying things out, now it's actually doing it with code, and the result is exactly the same. Works beautifully. But now it's still orphan, and if I add piece now, it will not be orphan, but I'm not sure if we'll get a chance to see that. Yeah, because we went away. But from self, I think we might see, can we see the children from this thing itself? No, not right now. But yeah, that's what happens inside. So ready is called. We still don't see anything here in the application because we're still in the middle of initializing the board. We're still in here. It hasn't gone through to the end, only after it's gone through ready. And we're still inside the first function here, after the first function inside that function. So there's still ways to go. The computer does this super quick when running without a debugger, but the debugger allows us to pause and see things one by one. So let's go in one more time here to add piece. So step into just to see that now dark is still true, but X is 3. And then if I go forward here and go like this, now look at piece. Now it has the dark material. Its position is 3, like it was given from there. So it all works. Now I'm just going to step over this because we've gone through what happens inside add piece. And now it adds all of those and adds them as a child to board. And now we come out of dark pieces. Next, we go into white pieces. And let's just go through this because there's something different now. Now we have false instead of true for the first argument, which is dark. So let's go inside this. So otherwise, everything is exactly the same, but the difference in behavior is going to be this. We're going to skip this. We're not going to go into this. And I can show it by continuing here. And earlier, if I pressed to the next line, it would have stopped here. But now it's going to jump straight to line 68. It's not even going to go inside here because this is false, dark. It's not on, it's false. And like that. And if we check piece, it has no surface material override, so its material comes straight from the mesh class that it has in it. So we haven't overridden it. So this is how you can always go through your own code with the debugger one line at a time. Go step into functions you've created and just go to the next line like this. Now I'm not going to step into these. And now I come out of here, and now it shows that debug session closed. We got out of this one. And as we came out of it, we came out of ready immediately. We didn't have any new code here. And now when we go to the application, we're going to see the application itself. Oh no, we're not. Debug session closed. Ah, it could be because I pressed X on the window. Let's see. So if I go here, here, yeah, execution resumed, and now it shows that it did what it did. Okay, that was new to me. So if I press play here, press X here, but then continue with the debugger. Right, it remembers me pressing the close application button, the X on the top left corner there. So interesting. That's something I learned new. Another thing in debugging that you can do is you can just press this button, so continue, and then it will continue forever and ever. So continue normal execution or until a new breakpoint comes. So I could, for example, have a breakpoint here. And then if I press continue, it'll go through every single thing. So dark pieces and everything in white pieces until it stops here. And like, wait, what happened? Why aren't we seeing anything? Well, that's because we're here. And if we press continue again, we'll continue the normal application view. And now we can interact with it until another breakpoint comes. That's the debugger, and that's walking through what actually happens in the code. And yeah, what better way than to visualize it with the debugger? And you can try that out for yourself. Now we've accomplished what we needed to in this session. This turned out to be longer than I thought because I had to play around with the materials, but at least I learned new things there as well. And next time we're gonna make this code a little smarter. We're gonna look at for loops, because now we're doing a lot of copy pasting here, and we can make this code easier to maintain and smarter by having a loop go through. But more on that in the next video, because this was already enough for one day. So go through the code. Make sure you pause the video now, and I'll scroll down this slowly and pause the video to write down this stuff. Hope you're able to follow it. So let's go again. Board has board.GDScript attached to it. I attached it by right-click, attach script, and created a new one. And then it saved it here. It showed where to save, board.gd. And then here I opened it here, and this is board.gd. This is piece. I can actually delete this as well. So let's close that, and then let's delete this. We don't need this anymore because we put all the logic here to board. And then we removed the one piece that we had manually placed here. And we're still using this piece scene. We're just loading it in code. Where was it? Here. At this point, piece.tscn, piece tscn. This is piece.tscn. But yeah. Reach out to me in comments if you have some problems, if you need me to go through again something. If this was easy to follow, then cool. Share the video with your friends. Hope you learned something. I at least learned something new as well myself from these materials and how they should be placed into separate instances of meshes. And let me scroll down here so you can see initialize white pieces again. You can pause the video and write that yourself. No copy pasting. Please do write it yourself. I wrote all of this myself. Okay, I copy pasted the function, but if I just gave this whole script to you to copy paste everything, you wouldn't be learning much. And nice to notice that this trailing comma here at the end of arguments works now in Godot 4.1.3. Could be it worked in earlier ones, but at least in Godot 3 it didn't work. So this is a really nice upgrade. Small code style things that only usually more senior developers appreciate, but this is nice. And yeah, and that's add piece. So now everything's saved. I'm gonna close the project, close the documentation, and this is where I say thank you for watching. Hope you learned. reach out from the comments. I'm usually fairly quick to respond. And if there's any request of what you'd like to learn or see, or for me to recap again, then yeah, just put comments on YouTube, and that's the fastest way to reach me in regards to these. See you guys next time. Next time we'll be looking into for loops and making our instantiate white and dark pieces smarter with for loops. And well, let's focus just on that. I think there's quite enough to learn with for loops, so that's one session. Anyways, thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.